Hope you're enjoying the last few moments of Hanukkah and you're having a good Erev Shabbos as well. When Paro struggles to find an interpretation for his dreams, the Sar HaMashkin, the cupbearer of Paro, tells him about someone he met while he was in prison, and his name is Yosef. And he can interpret dreams. He did it for me, and it came true. You should give him a try. So, Paro does exactly that. Okay, great. Vayishlach Paro vayikra el Yosef. Paro sends and calls for Yosef. Vayiritzuhu min habor. And so they rushed him from prison. And they got him ready to appear in front of Paro. Could you imagine that? He's sitting in prison for a few years. After the Sar HaMashkin left prison a few years back already. And suddenly, just one day, everyone rushes in to get you out of jail. It's an amazing scene to just put yourself in that mindset of being Yosef in that moment. And that he was so not flustered by the moment, it seemed like he was ready for it. Like, okay, yeah, I'm ready, let's go. I'm happy to interpret the dream. And the Chafetz Chaim, Rav Yisrael Meir Kagan, says we learn from this idea of Vayiritzu min habor, that they rushed him out, because they didn't need to tell us that they rushed him out. We'd have presumed that they brought him out quickly and they brought him in front of Paro. Why tell us they rushed him out of prison? He says Lakolzman. We learn from this the concept that everything has a time, and that in this case, the time for Yosef being in jail was up. God said, "You've served the time that was allotted for you. And I'm going to set up a scenario where they're literally going to rush you out of jail when the timer goes off." And that's what happens. Right? Kevan Shatam Hazman, the time was complete. Yosef hayat tzarich liot beit ha'asurim. He needed to be in prison. Chafetz Chaim says, "Hiritzu b'mehirut habezek min beit ha'asurim." They rushed him out in a flash from jail. And he says that we can learn from this story of Yosef, and they rush him out of the jail, is something that relates to redemption in general. This was a redemption in some ways for Yosef. And he says we can learn about other redemptions as well. We learn something about God and redemption here. That is when the time of redemption comes, God, he writes, Lo nit mahama af rega yoter al hazman. God doesn't wait even one moment. When the designated time has come for redemption, and you see it in front of you, it will come sometimes very suddenly. Now, what's very important, and the Chafetz Chaim doesn't point this out, but actually one of the commentaries that's on the bottom of his work, called Maseh LaMelech, which I believe is the work of Rabbi Yeshayahu Zilberstein, is that you also have to be ready for it. Yosef was ready for it. He didn't say, "Hold on, let me get my bags, let me get this." And they rushed him out. They helped him get, a change of clothes. Hey, you haven't washed laundry in a while. It looks like you need a shave, etc. And they brought him in front of Paro, but he wasn't flustered. He was ready for that moment of redemption. And so he says that we need to be ready for the moment of redemption too, because sometimes it can just come so suddenly. And Rav Zilberstein writes that when it talks about in the book of Malachi, when it talks about God says, "I'm going to bring Eliyahu a Navi," and it seems like it's talking about a end of days, a Mashiach kind of situation in the book of Malachi, the end of the book of Malachi. It says, "Hine anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu Navi." I am sending you Eliyahu Navi. It doesn't say Ashaleach etchem. I'm going to send you in the future tense Eliyahu Navi. Rather, it says here, the way God says this, I am sending you Eliyahu Navi. He's already in motion. Perusho, what does Rav Zilberstein say? Eliyahu Navi omeid hachein tamid lemale shlichuto. Eliyahu is ready to go. He's ready to do what he's supposed to do, and he's supposed to usher in the geula. Hadavar talui rak banu. The whole matter depends on us, though. Anu tzrichim liyot muchanin lekabel panav. We need to be ready to accept Eliyahu, to be able to accept redemption. Are we ready to say yes when redemption shows up at our door? We have reached Baruch Shechianu v'Kiyimanu v'Higiyanu Lazman Hazeh. We've reached a point where there is a vaccine, actually 2 vaccines in the United States of America that have been approved for usage against COVID-19, to prevent from COVID-19. 10 years ago, this would have been a dream that a vaccine could be produced in less than a year and be ready for usage to save hundreds of thousands of lives. There's a light at the end of the tunnel now. In some ways, you could say this is the redemption moment. God is pulling us out of the bore, out of the prison, out of the dungeon in some ways that we have suffered with, and that so many have unfortunately lost their lives to over these past 9, 10 months. Can't even remember how long it's been now. And we have an option. Are we going to say, yes, we're ready? We're ready to do what we can to get to the end of that tunnel, to get that full redemption, to make sure that we're acting in a safe way, from now until that time, and that when the moment comes, when it's our turn to roll up our sleeve and to get a vaccine, are we ready? Are we going to be lining up? Are we going to encourage our friends and our family to do the same, and all those around us? The redemption is here. It's coming. Are we ready to accept it and get ourselves all the way to the finish line of a geula from this terrible virus, this terrible pandemic that we've been through? We are right there, folks. Let's be ready. Let's take the opportunity. Let's get to the finish line. Shabbat Shalom.